Someone who has lived in New York his whole life and has always thought of journalism as being a career choice, and is now the lead sports columnist for the New York Post, Mike Vaccaro.
Well, you know what, as a lead columnist, basically, I mean, it's my responsibility to be at the story of the day, and trying to diversify is very important. So that's part of what being a lead columnist is also, because you're expected to kind of take different approaches at different days also, sometimes making them angry, sometimes making them laugh, that kind of thing.
Mike Vaccaro has had amazing chances to witness several famous sporting events that provide him with the story of tomorrow. Soon after, many of them become his favorite stories.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to cover a lot of really incredible events. I've covered 6 Olympics, and the Olympics are really it's kind of a breakfast buffet for a sports columnist, because there's so many sports, so many venues, so many athletes to write about, so many countries to write about. And that's really, it's in a lot of ways it's the pinnacle. It's 16 days of being able to write about things you don't normally write about.
Being compassionate and open-minded is a vital part of being a successful columnist.
I think compassion is a big thing, to be honest with you. I think that when you're a young columnist, you want the world to know what a tough guy you are, that you have opinions and you won't be moved off those opinions. And sometimes that means firing coaches, trading players, firing general managers. And that's still a part of the job. But I think you realize over time, as you become older, as you become a little more experienced, maybe as you've had your own life experiences, that you don't do it. You still have to do it once in a while, but you don't do it without thinking about it, thinking it through.
There are high demands of becoming a columnist as well, traveling, which often takes away time from loved ones and home.
And to me, it's important to be there. It's important to be at the games, no matter where they are, if I'm going to comment on them. I really would rather not write about something if I'm not there, unless it's impossible to be there. Then you have to make certain determinations. So as a result, getting on a plane is something that I do a lot. Spending nights in hotels is something I do a lot. Spending time away from my dogs and my wife is something I do a lot, and it's just part of the life that we've come to accept. I mean, I'm lucky that I married somebody who understood what I wanted to do. I know that there are times I'll wake up if I've been on the road 6 or 7 days in 2 or 3 different cities, and I'm like, what city am I in? And that really does happen, and it takes you about 15 seconds before you realize, oh right, I'm in Chicago, and I have to be at the airport in an hour. But that's it can be kind of a drag, and certainly since 9/11, traveling isn't nearly as easy as it used to be.
Mr. Vaccaro has not only experienced the different lifestyle that comes with the job, but has learned lessons that he believes can only be acquired by working as a columnist.
One of the first things one of the first lessons I learned was, if you rip a player on Tuesday, make sure you're at his locker on Wednesday. Not necessarily looking for a confrontation. You don't want to continue the argument, but you want to give him an opportunity to say, you know what, I read what you wrote today, and it was BS, and here's why. And I think it's important to do that. And whenever I've done that in my career, even if it involves working a day off, I'll be at somebody's locker, or at least be in someone's presence, where if they want to confront me about what I've written, they have that opportunity. Again, not looking for a fight, just looking to give them equal time to be able to say what's on their mind. And I don't think that's taught enough anymore. And I think a lot of times you'll see a lot of hit and run, so to speak, where a guy will lob a grenade at somebody on Tuesday, and then you won't see him again for a couple of weeks until the anger has passed.
Every columnist has a problem of their own. Some can't go to the subjects that they're writing after writing about them. Some can't find something inspiring to write about, and Mr. Vaccaro can't get others to read his work.
So for me, the biggest obstacle is to get people to read my work, for the most part, because a lot of times they wouldn't read it at the beginning, when I would send it to them, because they thought I was too young, too inexperienced, and then later on because the job markets were so flooded. So really getting the first opportunity, I think that's the thing that a lot of people are going to find out. Once you get your foot in the door, then you're on your own. Then you pretty much get to sink or swim based on your talent, your ability, how much you want it, your ambition. But getting that opportunity was always a stumbling block for me, getting somebody to believe that I was worth the effort, worth the time to try and develop me into something better than I was. So that was pretty much the biggest thing. Once I got my foot in the door, and once it was on me, I was a lot better off. There was a lot of night work, a lot of phone calls from a lot of angry coaches who wanted to get their scores in the paper and were wondering how come their stories weren't bigger than the other high school stories were. But it really allowed me to learn a lot about the business, which I think is important. Whereas I can kind of have a sense of what it was like to root for a team, but I really don't root for the Mets or root for the Yankees or root for the Giants. And so that's part of what I miss, because I do love sports, and I love being a sports fan. I love the idea of caring about wins and losses to the very bottom of your being. And that's why I put so much of my personal energy into my alma mater's basketball team, and also what I miss most about what I do, because you're not going to be able to write a good column off the Giants winning the Super Bowl if you're emotionally invested. You have to be able to write your column on deadline in about 25 minutes, and then write another one in the same kind of circumstance. And if you're caring too much about it, you're not going to be in any kind of mindset to be able to do the job properly.
College has provided him with many solutions that would later help him overcome his challenges.
And when I was very young in college, someone told me the best way to become a columnist is to write columns, which sounds a little like a chicken or the egg thing, but it's true. I mean, you start writing columns, writing opinions, writing with perspective, trying to find your voice in your writing, and you probably don't know what you're doing. I know I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I did. When I was 23, I thought I was hot stuff. I go back and I read the things I was reading when I was 23. What I see is not a very good writer, not a very good columnist, but somebody who knew what they wanted to do, knew they wanted to try and figure it out. And I think that's the biggest thing above all, is having the ambition to want to get better, and also the humility to know that you have to get better. I think a lot of people sometimes reach a peak in their development because they think, you know, I figured it out, but they really haven't. And it's, you know, I mean, even now, 25 years into my career, I still think there are things that I could do better, and I try to get better at those things. And that really allowed me to get better, I think, when I was younger, was a willingness to learn, a willingness to work hard, a willingness to get after it.
Mike Vaccaro takes his job seriously by being where he needs to be when he needs to be there, and writing about it in a unique way by being compassionate and conversational. He uses certain phrases and quotes that bring his point across strongly. Mike Vaccaro started off from the bottom, and with commitment and determination, he slowly worked his way to the top, and is now the lead sports columnist for the New York Post.
And being a good reporter, to me, is the backbone of being a good columnist, because writing is a muscle. In the same way that your biceps are muscles, you know, the way you make your biceps stronger is to work out 3-4 times a week, work out, you know, at times when you don't want to work out because you know it's right for your body and you know it's right for the development of that muscle. Also, so is writing columns, and the only way you get better, both in terms of getting a legitimate opinion, but also in terms of getting a strong voice that people recognize. Right. And sometimes if you let that go, it atrophies like any other muscle. But to keep it strong and to keep it moving in the direction you want it to move, not only in terms of quality, but just saying something in your own voice, you have to just learn how to write.